My special guest today is an expat originally from Manchester, England, but like myself resides right here in San Antonio, Texas. He's a former Royal Marine, a musician who is frontman and stand-up bassist for psychobilly band The Phantom Rockers. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show Mr. Mark Burke. Good afternoon, Mark.
Good afternoon, mate. How you doing?
It's not very often I get to interview someone from just down the road. It's normally
Basically, yeah.
overseas.
I saw you a couple of days ago.
Mark, the Phantom Rockers were formed in 1988 back in the UK.
Yes.
You left a band called the Crewmen to form the Phantoms. Tell us how you put the band together.
Well, basically what it was is my whole background, my family were in the Royal Air Force and the rest of the band members were too. They were all posted in Germany. So all four of the Phantom Rockers who were English, ex-military, the parents were ex-military, one of them was ex-military actually. After the Crewmen, I got offered another record deal. It was the bass player from Golden Earring. He had a record label called Rock House, what became Tombstone Records. Offered me to get a band together. So I got these guys who were playing in other bands already. And so after 3 months, we set a record deal, recorded it in Den Haag in Holland. This was, as I said, still late 1988. And then we just went from there, started touring Europe for years until we finally got to the US in 92.
Now, the band is not rockabilly. It's psychobilly.
No, I mean, psychobilly it all happened, as I said, I would say mid-70s. Of course, you remember yourself in England, they had bands like the rockabilly. The first rockabilly wave was like Shawaddy Waddy, Matchbox, those kind of bands. And then, of course, then the Stray Cats and the Polecats came out. That was in the mid-80s, early 80s too. And then there was a band from London called the Meteors, who were like rockabilly, punk, gothic-y sort of. And that's when I sort of like went, wow, this is more my cup of tea, a bit more energy than rockabilly. And, of course, then we had bands. They were on Top of the Pops. King Kurt, that was a band what influenced me too. But psychobilly is a mix. I think it's a crossover of everything. There's some bands that got a bit of ska in it. Some bands have got a little punk. Some bands are a little metal. But psychobilly is a variation of different kinds of music. But the bass itself is rockabilly, with the stand-up bass.
Yeah, where did the name originate from, psychobilly?
Well, you see, this is the argument. Actually, Johnny Cash had a song called Psychobilly Cadillac. That's where we've heard it from before. But there was a band called The Meteors from London. They invented the word, or basically took the word psychobilly for the first time. And as I said, it was British bands from London. They say there's a band called, there's a band called The Cramps, or used to be a band called The Cramps. They said they took the name psychobilly too, but I've been playing it, so I believe it, without no doubt, it was the Meteors from London who invented that name.
Right, okay. Now, you say the members, when you formed the band, are all military guys, because you were in the Royal Marines yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, what happened is, this is the early 80s, I left school when I was 16 and a half, 17, and my brother got sent to the Falklands. Actually, he left the military and they pushed him back in. Of course, my dad was polishing his medals, thinking he's ready to come. Well, he could have joined Dad's army hastily, but the thing is, he was polishing his medals and his boots. And I said, Dad, they're not going to call you in again, mate. But anyway, so I was in Doncaster, living there at a time with my brother. I was going to join the army or the Air Force, but that time, that was the only thing going. So I did 3 years, and it wasn't really my cup of tea, but I mean, I did it. I'm glad that I did it for Queen and Country, but that's it really. And then, as I said, after that, I went back to where all my family's from, Manchester, Gorton. Started hanging out in the music scene there, working in the nightclubs. I don't know if you remember the Hacienda.
Oh, yeah, famous Manchester club.
Yeah, right. Well, my cousins, they were like, famous football hooligans and doormen on the at the Hacienda, and we got to meet New Order, and they owned part of the club. And then, of course, we met Morrissey, and then It was Simply Red. They all hang out there.
Yeah.
And the Happy Mondays. I remember. Anyway, so I got into that kind of scene for a little while, but it was a bit too rough for me. So, well, my family was anyway. So I thought, I'll tell you what, I'll go back to Germany. My dad retired in a place called Mönchengladbach, Royal Air Force, Rheindal and JHQ. It's one of the biggest bases. I think there's over 80,000 Brits. That's where I went for a little while. Then I got signed. When I was 21, I met this band from Basingstoke, London, called the Crewmen. They were looking for a bass player. Went over, auditioned, lived in the worst place ever, Basingstoke. I hated it. It was worse than Doncaster, just to let you know. But anyway, so the thing, I hope nobody's listening from Doncaster right now. It was terrible. But anyway, eat up, lad. But anyway.
How much?
How much, yeah.
Do you turn the gas off to turn the bacon over there?
If my brother lives over there, I might have to tell him that. But no, anyway, then I was with them for about 2 years, and the manager was a right old whatever. Yeah. And he was just too controlling and all that. And I just did a European tour, had enough. And then I went back to Germany for a little while, as I said, where some of my friends were living. The record label knew that I was leaving and led me on to a new label in Holland from one of the guys from Golden Earring. And so they wanted to sign us. So we recorded there, as I said. And then for the first 3 years, we started touring Europe. And then, as I said, one day we struck it lucky, where we got offered to come to America, to Washington, D.C., actually, for the first time. So it's exciting for some young English guys, you know. It was an experience, believe me.
Do you know what? Let's play a track and then come back to you. We're going to play...
Yeah, mate, all right. No
this is quite apt, this, actually, because we've got a Halloween coming up soon. This is Satan's Hideaway. This is Satan's Hideaway, Phantom Rockers.
This is a game, just pray, pray, pray. That's
Rocking Satan's Hideaway.
There you go, mate. What you don't do for money.
Mark, favourite bands growing up?
My band's growing up. Oh, I'll tell you what. Well, of course, let's talk about the 70s glam rock. You know, Sweet, Slade, Mud Rock, Gary Glitter, but not anymore. But anyway, I want to be a leader. But anyway, so yeah, that was that. And then the 80s, of course, you know, I remember, you know, Matchbox. Then there was Shawadi Wadi. Always loved those guys. Then of course, I've always loved Billy Fury. He was one of my favorites. And then the old stuff, Carl Perkins, Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee, and Johnny Cash. That's sort of.
Well, I was home 2 years ago, and they've actually put a statue of Billy Fury on the Liverpool waterfront now.
Yeah, that's right. I saw that. Isn't that great?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. And it's a great statue too. But haven't you met Jerry Lee? You told me one time you've met Jerry Lee.
Yeah. Do you know what? I met Jerry Lee at the Rockabilly Vegas Festival years ago. And then I had the honour 10 years ago. They have these big Rockabilly festivals in Vegas. They did a jam session. And they were looking for a bass player to get up and jam. And I can't believe it. I was right next to Elvis Presley's original guitar player. I forgot his name now.
Scotty Moore.
And then
Scotty Moore, I think.
Scotty Moore, yeah. And the drummer from who sang Bebop Baloo
Gene Vincent. Gene Vincent.
Yeah, so I couldn't believe it. I was like playing with two legends, and I was like, wow. So yeah, I've met quite a few people. I mean, not just rockabilly legends, but as I said, touring. I mean, Phantom Rockers have been going 33 years now. I can't really still believe I'm doing it. Can't even believe that I'm living in the US. I mean, basically, it's been a long journey. And over the last couple of years before this virus happened, we got invited to Brazil a few times, Mexico. We've been on Telemundo and did a few shows there. Then I was Colombia and Chile. And I'm like, wow, it's amazing. And then you get kids coming to you going, they've got the first album. And I'm like, where'd you get this album from? And she's like, oh, my mum. I was like, hold on. Well, how old's your mum then? I'm like, yeah, we're getting old.
Were you influenced in any way by the Stray Cats?
Always. I've always, as I said, I got the honour to meet those guys, Lee Rocker and then Brian Setzer. Yeah, without no doubt, who was into rockabilly in the UK? The Stray Cats were just like something completely different. There was a band also called the Polecats who were there, and they both got produced by Dave Edmunds. There's another guy who I used to listen to a lot, Dave Edmunds. But that's how they got that great sound, is through Dave Edmunds. But yeah, the Stray Cats have always been, one of my favourites.
Well, I have Brian Setzer's guitar stand at home.
No bloody way.
No, as you know, I play in Waxy O'Connor's on the Riverwalk, and I tell you what happened. No, the stagehands at the Majestic Theatre are all my friends. So a few Christmases ago, I'm playing. It was Christmas period. It was December. And then my friend Tori came in for a drink after one of the shows. She's holding this guitar stand up, brand new, puts it down in front of me. She says, Merry Christmas. So what's that for? She says, I'll tell you in your break. So as a break, goes the bar, and she says, I've been looking at that for 2 weeks. Brian Setzer played 2 weeks ago, and he left it in his dressing room. So I've been keeping my eye on it, and no one's picked it up, and I thought, I'm going to have that for Joe. So I've got it.
I'll tell you what I've got is, this was like 20 years ago, the singer from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He went in this, I forgot, Anthony What's-It. He came into this bar, and he had like, when all that grunge was out, he had one of these bobble hats, whatever, on. Okay. So me and the guitar player played the night before in Washington, and went up to him and says, "Oi, you know what? My mum's got one of those. She puts it on the teapot to keep the tea warm." So he's like, "Do you know who the hell I am?" I'm like, "No, who are you?" He goes, "Anthony." I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll have that hat and I'll have you too," I said. Now bugger off. They hated him there because he was a right old whatever he was. But the thing is, I still got his bloody hat.
You still got it?
I got it a different way, but yeah.
You were the first band, along with the Meteors that you mentioned before, to bring psychobilly to the United States.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is nobody knew what they. A lot of people who were in high school and all that, they've heard of it. It was all people who were in the U.S. military who lived in England or Germany or Europe, they heard of it. So as I said, when we came over first, well, we got signed in Washington, D.C. in 93 to a heavy metal agent called James Turner Productions. And they made us go on tour. They didn't just do heavy metal. They did like the Romantics. They did the Specials. They did Ronnie DiGio. He was a really nice guy before he passed away. And then they put us in all these metal bands. So it was different. People's never seen it. And then they started to put us in university and colleges where the kids or the students were more into it. Then, of course, then there was a band who's a great friend of mine, by the way. I just went on a tour with him about 4 years ago. It's Reverend Horton Heat, great guitar player. And we got to know him in Dallas. And he was one of the first. He had that. He was on the Beavis and Butthead show, whatever it was, and they had that song Psychobilly Freak Out. And so they opened actually slowly the door. But psychobilly really didn't happen, I would say, till around about 2001. And it was like a blast. Because I went back, as I said, I was on an 0102 visa, went home for a little while, got a bit tired from the US, and then didn't realise it wasn't that bad as I thought it was. So came back, went on a tour, and we got signed to a bigger label in Los Angeles. And then there was a British band called The Exploited. They were an old, well-known British punk, Scottish punk band. But we went on tour with them, and we went on tour with the Romantics. And then the next thing, they had these other bands from Denmark called the Nicomatics and Horror Pops, and then Tiger Army, came out and sort of opened it to a bigger variety. So bands like us who've been from the 80s, it made us follow them and go back in for a second wave. And that's, basically why as I said, I was actually living for a little while. I used to, with my O1 visa, I'd wait till it run out because you have to go back to the country leave the country for a little while and then come back. I was living in Los Angeles for a little while, what was pretty much fun. And then lived in Chicago, was really nice, I have to say. And then one of the nicest places I think I lived was North Carolina, Wilmington. I really liked it there. Yeah. But San Antonio grew on me. I was in Dallas for a while. It was nice too. When I came to San Antonio, first I was like, well, I was on the south side. Nobody understood a word I said. Like, kept asking for a glass of water, and it took forever. So I just drew a little picture and said, look, that's what I want, But it grew on me, and I think San Antonio over the years, it's a bigger and bigger city. But as you know yourself, I went back, had enough a couple of years ago, went back. It's always good to go back and to see what you've got or what you haven't. I mean, living in the US, it's everywhere you go, it's got its ups and downs, Yeah. But I'm here now. Yeah. I think, as you know, I've just had, we're 55, I've just had a 2-week-old baby. Can you believe that?
Well, congrats to you and Gladys on little Charlie, yeah?
Yeah, if Rod Stewart can do it, mate, so can I.
First shows in America. What was your first shows you did in America?
The first shows was in Washington, D.C. Then they put us to Baltimore. There was another great band. I didn't even know they were English, or half of them. I don't know. Have you ever heard of a band called Foghat?
No.
Oh, they had that. There's a song called Slow Ride. Every American knows it. It was like, They were from the 70s, but 2 of them were from London. The other 2 were from America. Went on tour with them for a little bit too. But then they started to bring us to New York, New Jersey. Then we went back to Europe. And then we came back, and then we started doing more of the Midwest. And then, of course, California, and then went over to Canada a couple of times.
What's your favourite places to play in the US?
I like Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I do like San Francisco. That's really cool. I like an open audience. I like a mixed audience. And then Chicago, I must admit, that's a really cool place to play.
Did you ever play the Whiskey A Go-Go?
No, but I've been there. I actually
Yeah.
met. I went to the Whiskey Go Go 7 years ago, and I met Lemmy from Motorhead.
Let
You
me.
could always see him. He was there on the pinball machine with his whiskey coke.
Yeah.
And what a nice guy. And do you know what? I didn't even know this. He was into rockabilly. I had a good old chat with him.
Yeah.
He was actually, well, you know Lemmy from Motorhead. Everybody knows Motorhead.
Yeah.
But anyway, he actually was the roadie from Jimi Hendrix. I didn't know that. He
I
told
didn't
me.
know
And then,
that.
of course, no, and he told me, to be quite honest with him, he always wanted to be a Teddy boy, he said, but he got into metal.
Yeah.
But his favourite was Gene Vincent, Eddie Cochran, Buddy Holly. And he had a band 10 years ago with two of the guys from the Stray Cats and from other rockabilly bands and him. And they used to play the Whiskey Go Go. Have you ever been?
Never been. No. I've actually never been to LA.
Yeah, they've got a little statue of him there now. That's,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, a friend of mine who's been on the show, he had a band at the time called the Chain Gang. Tony O'Keefe, great drummer.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony did some shows with Lemmy and met him in the 80s too. One of the nicest guys he's ever met in the business. Tony's got a band called the Shakers now. They're the resident band at the Cavern Club in Liverpool. They got this Merseybeat combo together. Great band anyway, called the Shakers.
Really?
But you know, they were talking about Lemmy. They met Lemmy.
What I was going to tell you about Liverpool, I remember the club I played in '88 then. It was called Planet X. Do you ever remember that
I
one?
know Planet X, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that where you played?
The manager too, his name was Kenny. I still
Yeah.
owe him money. I had a tab. Don't tell him where I live. Is this going out to England too?
Do you know what? Let's play another track. This is a cover originally, talking to Liverpool, this cover originally by Liverpool band Dead or Alive. Now, I remember singer Pete Burns when I was a kid because he worked in a record shop in Liverpool city centre called Probe Records. Mm-hmm. This was a massive hit. What made you cover this one? This was a good choice, this.
I think in the 80s there was so many great songs written, and I just thought I'd had to do it like in a rockabilly, psychobilly version. On the new album, actually doing another band from Liverpool, and that's Flock of Seagulls.
Paul's a friend of mine. Which Flock of Seagulls song are you doing?
I Ran. We're going to do that.
Paul's a good mate of mine, a guitar player.
Don't they live in Florida now?
Well, Mike and Ali Score, I think, the brothers, they do. I haven't spoke to Paul for a long time, but last time I was with him was in Liverpool, yeah, and Frank, the bass player, too.
Right.
So this is You Spin Me Right Round, Baby, Right Round, Phantom Rockers version of Dead or Alive track.
Like you haven't fallen over enough to love it, not I want some fun.
Great version, great choice to cover that song. It's a classic, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I've always liked to do. You see, in that rockabilly and psychobilly scene, a lot of them they just cover like 50s songs or 60s. I always thought it was a good idea to do like a few covers of 80s songs.
In that style, in the psychobilly
Yeah,
style.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've kept the style going, as I said. I mean, after 33 years, you can't. I mean, the foundation's there. You can like lately writing this new album, we've put a bit of different flair in it. There's new band members. They've put their influence in, but I think you always have to keep the foundation as it has been, because if you change it, then you're gonna not. The fans are not going to be too happy. So
Do you write the Phantoms' original songs?
Yeah. I mean, I would say to 70% or 60%, I would say, and then, as I said, over the years, we've had band members who wrote all different kinds of songs together. But basically, I would say to 60 or 70%, I'll write the songs.
Okay. What made you choose the upright bass?
I just love the sound. So when you pick up a stand-up bass, it goes into your neck. It's a round sound. It's a pain to get on the plane, I'll tell you that, over the years, but it's just the whole sound. It's just different. It's a fuller sound, and I think to rockabilly or to psychobilly, it's just the right instrument, because it's got that big oomph sound behind it.
Yeah.
As I said, the thing is, over the years, touring, it has been a pain, because we used to, years ago, would take it with us, and then British Airways would put it on the back, and you could put it on for free, and then they'd break the neck or something like that. They were like, oh. Or then I tried to put it on the plane. They wanted $2,000, and I'm like, nah. So what I do now these days is I just make sure that they have when we fly to venues, and make sure that they've got the right bass for me, the right strings, the right pickup and amps, and then just do that, because it's just hard work.
So you don't travel with the bass now? You just pick one up where you go to?
No, I mean, what I do is for instance, next year we'll be playing Europe again. As I said, I think things are slowly getting back to normal again. Yeah. So I've got a bass at friends of mine in Europe, so I'll pick it up and then use that there. Or if there's certain places we're just going to fly out, I'll just have a bass ready for me, like we did just before the virus a couple of years ago, when we flew to Mexico and then Chile, and we had a bass waiting there for us, and then a day before the show, I'll make sure it's the right bass, it's got the right strings, right. That everything's, so I can feel comfortable with playing with it,
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I've travelled, when I've done gigs in New York, I've took my guitar, and I actually bought a special travel case for flights. And I loosened the strings, and I've been lucky the last couple of times, because they let me gate check it and actually put it in one of the lockers, right. So I've been okay. But I know exactly what you mean, travelling with instruments, but especially a double bass.
Well, it's like with guitars, like our guitar players, we didn't, you have to loosen the strings, because once you get in the air, the pressure, it can break the bridge or the neck or something like that. And then even when they say they're careful, I mean, I've seen it half the time. Yeah. I'll be like knocking on the window going, "Oi! That's our bass, or that's our guitar player." That's the only thing we do travel with is guitars,
Yeah. As well as the US. Now, the band's played all over, as you said, all over Europe, Mexico, Japan.
All over the world, mate.
Korea, all over the world.
I said, I've been blessed.
Yeah.
I have been blessed, I have to say. I mean, a couple of years ago, we went to Japan, we went to Korea. As I said, Mexico 5 times, Chile, Colombia. I was like, hello, are we going to come back? All over the US, all over Europe, Canada. We had an offer a couple of years ago to go to Australia, but there was too much going on in my life, so I couldn't really do it. And then a couple of years, is it now with the virus? Is it about 2 years now? Yeah. Just before the virus happened, we got signed again. We were like, right, okay, let's do another comeback. And we had a whole tour in Europe lined up. But then, as you know, everything just fell apart.
It really did, yeah.
As we were talking a couple of days ago, I'm doing a tour in November in California. It's not the same. I mean, the money's not the same. The rules are not the same. we have to do it no matter what. We have to do it, and I'm just going to test it. But the thing is, for touring bands, it's hard right now. But you can't give up. You just have to keep on going and see what happens next.
That's right.
You know?
Is the crowd reception different wherever you go?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, you know, you get the die-hard rockabilly and psychobillys, like if you go to California or somewhere like that, and then you go into different, when we went to Chile or Colombia or Mexico, it's just everybody who's into any kind of rock music, if it's punk or metal, gothic or new wave or rockabilly or psychobilly. And I do prefer a mixed audience, and it's like San Antonio. When we every couple of years we'll play San Antonio, and it's a mixed audience. In England, you've got the die-hard psychobilly guys, and who are basically my age in the 50s, and that's where the die-hard. And then Germany is the same too, but it varies. As I said, it's different everywhere where you go. But you know what? I don't care who I play for, so long as everybody's having fun, behaving themselves and having a laugh. That's the main thing. And as I said, 33 years later, I'm actually still, well, not on the road right now, but slowly going back again. So I'm blessed.
So the UK members of the band went back home when you came to the States, but you decided to stay in America. How did you recruit new members over here to keep the band going?
Well, what happened is, the one, as I said, some of the members, they liked the US, some of them didn't, some of them missed home, some of them just couldn't get used to the US. But what happened is, over the years, our music's been going to the US. So when we were touring, the band members would say, look, I'm not going to stay in the United States, better find somebody else. So we recruited, like, you know, Vinny right now. Vinny, who's been with the band for like, God knows, 14, 15 years. He was studying in university in Brownsville, Texas. He actually booked us. He was a booker for the university. And he was into the band and into other kind of music. But that's how he got into it. And the other two members now, that's the same thing. They've been into this kind of music for years. So it's, I mean, it's pretty, I have to say, I've always been lucky to get new band members. So just that the new old band members who are with me right now know you're easy to replace, mate. So behave yourself. Right. Everybody's replaceable. Except me.
But, you know, the virus, as you say, we had the virus and we're getting over that now. But you've got some new tour dates coming up. You want to talk us through them?
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember. I think it's the 11th of November. Oh, no. The 10th of November, we're going to be in New Mexico.
So it's this year then? Your tour date it's still this year?
Month.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we've got Berkeley, California. I think that's on the 12th, the 13th. We've got Long Beach, and then we got the 14th we got in Los Angeles. So it's a little teaser. We're, you know, I mean, look, we're not going to have big tour buses or something like that. We're basically going to start off small again a little bit. We're just going to be in a tour bus, a van basically with a U-Haul trailer, stay in the hotels and see what's going to happen from there. Because as I said, it's been on and off with promoting. I mean, when you talk to these promoters and clubs, they're still a little bit worried, you know. So, look, I think we're going to get over it. It's just some, you know, before you know it, it'll be something else. So, for musicians, for any kind of artists, it's been a bloody nightmare, you know. So, I've been lucky, as I said. Who knows what's next?
Yeah, when I went back to playing on the Riverwalk, it was only 25% a year ago, and then it went to 50%. Now it's 100.
I have to say, though, I love it when you play. I really like your set. It's always fun.
It's cool when you come down. I appreciate you coming down.
I have to say something, not just being a good mate, but you've got a set, you get the audience going. I love it. It's a really, you've just got something, you've got something there, you know. That's what I think.
Well, thank you.
You know, appreciate I think you can watch other musicians and all that, but every time, you know, when I bring friends to see you, they're like, wow, Joe's got something different. I said, yeah, he's a Scouse.
Well, do you know what? You can be the you can be the best musician, you can be the best singer in the world, but the entertainer wins every time.
I tell my band members, you can be the best guitar player in the world, but sometimes you might just be playing in a tiny little bar in the corner. Yeah. It's about, I think, music too, to get something. You need to be there at the right time, at the right place. Yeah. That's what it's all about. Doesn't mean how good you are. And as I said, for us, I think we could have got a lot further, but when we came to the US and the whole truth and everything, the truth, we got spoiled with the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And then we thought, nah, we don't want to. Let's get off stage quick and have a party or something like that. And then that's what happened to the original lineup too, actually. So, yeah. And we got spoiled in the US. Now I've got older. I mean, I hardly drink anymore, and I just concentrate on the music and the power on stage, and just understand. Look, these guys are out there. They don't want to see somebody drunk falling down or something like that. They want to see something. So, and I think, like you on stage or me, we're the instrument. We need to be precise. We need to keep ourselves in shape. It's like you when I see you at the gym all the time, you know. Yeah. Punching the old bag, asking for a cup of tea. Oh, you like me? Look, I got this from Blackpool, actually.
That cup's from Blackpool.
Hello. I got that 2 years ago in Blackpool. But anyway, no, that's what it's all about. Keep in going, come up with some good ideas. And as I said, some of your songs, what you've written and those albums you've done, they're just something special. They're something different. I think, you know, you're just a born musician. That's how I feel about you.
I'm thinking of getting another band together and doing it. The last time I did it was the Amp Room on the Strip there, where you know. And,
I remember you told me about that.
Yeah, I'm thinking of doing it again and doing another show with a full band. Yeah.
You're a born entertainer, Joe. That's your life, mate. You just have to keep on going.
You do. You've got to keep going. We're going to play one more track, and then we're going to come back. But this is a great track. I've listened to a lot of your stuff, and a very clever intro. It's called Mexico.
Yeah, do you know what? That's what brought us to Central America. We did that song. I did it. There was a guy. He was in a band called The Exploited. Carl Morris from Bolton. He lived in the US for 20 years, and then he didn't like San Antonio. I met him in Dallas. He was in Dallas for 6-7 years, and then he didn't like San Antonio too much. He went back to Bolton, by all places. Wigan, actually. No, I went to visit him there for 2 minutes. It was all right for a little while, but it's not my cup of tea. But anyway, the thing is, and that's that song me and him wrote together, and that's the song what got us to Latin America. So, and I love that song. It's your typical rock and roll song.
It's a great song. But you wrote this, right?
Me and Carl Morris wrote this. He was one of the guitar players and band members, but Carl Morris and me, Mark Burke, with an E, wrote the with an E, mate.
Well, before we play it, who come up with the idea of the intro? The intro was great. Really grabs your attention.
I'll tell you what that was. Unfortunately, our drummer, he passed away 3 years ago now. His name was Scotty Teese on cancer. God bless him. We miss him. Right. You know what he was doing actually while he was with Fountain Rockers? He was drumming for that band, Modern English. You know,
Melt With You.
And, yeah. Well, he was touring them for a little while. He was doing doo-wop stuff and rockabilly.
Yeah.
But he came up with the intro in the front. I thought that was brilliant.
It is very, very clear. It grabs your attention. So let's hear it. This is Phantom Rockers and Mexico. Very clever.
Yeah, it's simple but clever. Yeah,
They say basic is best. Very catchy.
that's it. I mean, you look at AC/DC, you look at their songs, you look at ZZ Top. It's just the basic, but that's the best songs.
Yeah. Yeah, my daughter actually is going into AC/DC at the moment. She's playing a recorder last week. I said, what's that? She said, it's Dirty Deeds and they're done dirt cheap. I'm like, wow.
That's cool, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, what's the best platform for people to follow the band and get the latest news and purchase your music?
I would basically say if you just go on to Facebook and the Phantom Rockers,
Right.
All the information's there. Or, so that's the best way for right now.
So before we do close, I want to say congratulations once again to you and Gladys on the birth of little Charlie boy.
Thank you very much. So go and get him quick.
Go and get him quick. Let's get him on the show. Go on.
Go on.
Charlie Burke.
Right, here he is. Little Charlie.
His first appearance on radio.
No clothes on, just like his dad. Charlie Oliver Burke.
Mark, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Best of luck with the new record and the tour. And I hope to see you soon on the Riverwalk.
You will, mate.
Mark Burke, everyone.
Bye.